so much for listening to Uplifting Impact. I have a special opportunity for you. For everybody who is a listener, we are going to be hosting a wonderful How to Be an Ally Summit. It is a virtual summit. And for those of you who are our listeners, we know that you're already on your allyship journey. But if you're ready to go deeper, to learn more, to put some more tools into your toolbox, we'd love to have you join us. The summit is going to be hosted February 1st through the 3rd, 2021. So go ahead, get your ticket and make sure that you get a ticket, not just for yourself, but get a ticket for somebody in your family. Get a ticket for the people that are on your team. Let's go ahead and figure out how we can move further, faster, and together. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Uplifting Impact. Really excited to be here today with Melinda Briana Epler. She is got one of the most amazing backgrounds. She's done so many cool things. I could only pull out a few of them. But Melinda, if you haven't already seen her TED Talk, make sure that you go to it because she has a fantastic TED Talk. She also speaks and mentors and writes about diversity and inclusion. And she's really been focused on the ideas of innovation, entrepreneurship, and also investing, but really doing that through a diversity, equity, and inclusion lens. She's the host of the popular Leading with Empathy and Allyship podcast and has spoken on hundreds of stages all over the world. I'm going to totally blow your minds right now because I'm going to tell you some of these stages. She's been on South by Southwest, Grace Hopper, Wisdom 2.0, the World Bank, just because, the Obama White House, the Clinton Foundation, Black Enterprise, Google, Indeed, Capital One, McKinsey. I'm sure this list goes on and on and on. And today she is on Uplifting Impact. We're so happy to have you with us, Melinda.
Awesome. Thanks. I appreciate it. I'm excited to be here.
Fantastic. So I think it would be helpful for people just to understand how you got into this work and why you do this work.
Oh, well, okay. I have a short story and a long story, but I'll try to keep it somewhere in between. My whole life I've been focused on social and environmental impact, and started out as a documentary filmmaker, and was a documentary filmmaker for about 10 years, and then started using the storytelling and behavior change, those pieces of my work in documentary filmmaking, but use them in the corporate and NGO setting. So helping create behavior change campaigns, organizational change through behavior change and storytelling, behavior science and storytelling, and made my way eventually to be an executive. So I was an executive in an international engineering firm, brought me to San Francisco, and was doing some amazing work in the healthcare industry around reducing energy waste and water consumption in some of the nation's largest healthcare systems, and really creating social impact, positive social impact in that way. And I was also in one of the worst professional experiences of my life. And it took me a while to kind of realize what was happening, and started to realize that it was the culture, and that women and underrepresented minorities in that culture were not, it was just not set up for us. And so we had high turnover rates and low engagement numbers, and realized it created some change in that company, and then kind of realized I had a bigger impact I wanted to make in the tech industry. So I hired people to kind of continue that work on in that company, and then left to found Change Catalyst with my husband, Wayne, and we work on diversity, equity, and inclusion in the tech industry. Kind of how I got here. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Well, thank you for sharing that too. I think a lot of times, when I talk to leaders who are in this space, one of the big things that they talk about is what their own personal journey has looked like in coming into this work. And I think a lot of times we skip over that, but I think it's so important because it's that piece of it, right? Like the understanding and real recognition. One of the things that I think you had said it much more eloquently than I'm going to say now is you realize it's not me, it's you, right? Like that, that moment, right? When you have that moment, and then you also decide it's not me, it's you. but I also want to help you. Like, I would really like
Mhm.
to do something to make some change. And so hearing how people get to that moment, because I think there's a lot of people who are listening to the podcast who are in that moment where it's like, wait a minute, I'm not the only one who feels like this. And I see this happening. I'm not really necessarily trying to lead, but I'm trying to make change. I
Mhm.
want to be able to bring other people along with me. So that brings me
Yeah.
actually to my next question. So when people are in that spot, so when they're like, it's not me, it's you, right? But they want to stay and they want to figure out what they can do. What are some things that you might suggest for people who are in that moment?
Well, I think it really depends on what your job role is and your power within the organization. There's some things that you can do to kind of advocate for yourself. I would start there, and recognizing how you might be impacted by a culture that isn't really working. It wasn't really developed for you, and kind of understanding microaggressions and how those might be impacting you, and the systemic inequities and how they might be impacting you. Because the reality is there's some things that most of us who kind of face these barriers regularly go through, from imposter syndrome, that feeling that like I don't have the expertise that to be here, and I'm a fraud for being here or whatever. And so if you ever have those feelings, recognize that might not be you. You might have that experience. You probably do have that experience. I'm sure you have that experience. And it's a symptom of the barriers that we're coming up against. And so once we kind of realize that those barriers are there and how they might be affecting us on an individual level, we can start to work on our own reaction to them. And that can make a big difference. So I would start there, is that, it's not our problem. It's not that we caused this problem. And sometimes the best thing you can do for yourself is recognize how that problem is impacting you and work to have it impact you less. So, building up your confidence and really, for me, it was really just even understanding that stuff was out there, and recognizing when it's happening, and recognizing, that my brain is literally shutting down with these constant microaggressions, and figuring out ways to get out from under it. So
I love that you started there. And I think one of the things that's interesting that we don't emphasize enough is that in those moments, it's also okay to get to a place where you decide, this isn't for me. Like, like this is not, there's sometimes where you're like, I'm in it, I'm going to do it. I'm going to try and, effectuate some change. And there's some other times where you're like, no, I'm going to need to step away and just take care of myself, because I don't have that strength that I need to be able to carry it. And I think that's just a really important, like, first step, and reckoning, like, can I handle the work of the diversity, equity, inclusion work that I might be considering? Probably not, if you haven't gotten to a place where you're really comfortable with how you're managing your own self and your own kind of interactions with the space. That's huge.
Yeah. And if you're working on diversity and inclusion work on top of being from an underrepresented background, the possibility of you being tokenized in that position, because often, it is people from underrepresented backgrounds, usually Black women, in those roles. And so, that is and often it's because the company realizes they have a diversity issue. And so, all of that together, right, means that there's a lot that you're going through, and you have to decide if you want to keep like pushing through or not. And so part of it is, our own work that we can do, and then the next step is understanding the power that you have and what you can do within that power. And that could be, working to ensure to get leadership to a place where they really believe in this work and really can champion this work, because it really does have to the accountability, the strategy and the accountability really does have to come down from leadership. If they're not bought in, it's really tough to create the change that you want to see. And so that could mean, just being building trust with the executive team, and finding out what it is that they connect with. Everybody has their own kind of into diversity, equity, and inclusion. Sometimes it's data and the business case. Sometimes it's a daughter, a partner, a colleague that has really kind of given them that aha moment. Sometimes it's just because of the systemic inequities that they're seeing more and more now. There's a lot of new awakenings happening. And so whatever that is, kind of grab onto that and let that be their entry point and kind of bring them into this and make sure that they are bought in and the one really championing it and being there for you so that you can really do your work well.
And that, we have a couple of people who have talked about too, how to navigate to that, because there are techniques that you can use to build up that trust and kind of one of the things that you've done incredibly well, like you've mastered, is being able to bring people from within your industry together. And so having that focus on tech and really supporting that. And we have people who listen to the podcast who literally come from every industry you could imagine. And so there's somebody on the podcast who's like, you know what, I feel like this conversation is missing at the industry level. Are there lessons that you've learned in kind of pulling all those different industries together that you think other people might be able to deploy in their specific industry?
Yeah, I do. One big lesson is that you have to get the media involved. That external pressure for an industry is really important. And the tech industry, the media has kind of ebbed and flowed in terms of kind of holding tech accountable for diversity, equity, inclusion over time. And as it ebbs and flows, so do the budgets around D&I, right? And so does the real deep work. And so the more you can get media involved and really telling that story to an external audience and to the customers of the companies within that industry, the better, for sure. And whatever you can do to support that media as well. You can bring them we've had lots of writers and journalists to our events so that they can understand what's happening in the industry and also so they can be a part of it. Because that storytelling element is so important. And then bring leadership. The first year we did our Tech Inclusion Conference, it was really tough to get leaders to come and talk about diversity and inclusion, but we worked really hard at it. In the second year, we had multiple CEOs come talk about diversity and inclusion on stage. And that does a few things, executives just in general, and as well as CEOs. And it does a few things. One is it means that they are forced to kind of think about it ahead of time and think about what their companies are doing ahead of time. And it gets them new wheels turning that maybe haven't been turning so deeply before. And, there's a pressure of being on stage and having to talk about it. And so that can make a big difference in and of itself. The other piece is to meet them where they are. So we also decided in our first conference, we realized so many companies were blaming the problem of diversity on lack of diversity, the problem of lack of diversity on the pipeline.
Yeah.
And we're like, no. Yeah, sure, there's not enough underrepresented people in the pipeline, but you're not even hiring the percentages coming out of the pipeline. So we'll just bring that pipeline to you through career fair. So we didn't plan on doing a career fair in the beginning, but even that career fair has created change because once recruiters come, they have to start thinking about what are they doing around diversity and inclusion. And the wheels turn in a different way. They see candidates that are high quality candidates and their assumptions are kind of broken down. And, so really thinking about where people are and bringing the leadership to the table to really talk about what they're doing. And then sometimes bringing them back. Like we've brought leaders back multiple years to say, okay, we're checking in with you. What's happening now? Yeah. What did you do over the last year?
Oh, that's kind of a spicy way to do it too. That's great.
Mm-hmm.
So it's interesting because you've talked about like the power of storytelling, but then also the power of giving people experience, right? Mm-hmm. And giving people like elevating the conversation by using your platform, right? So if all of a sudden it's like everybody in your industry is going to be there, And they all are going to have, so you're almost doing like this positive peer pressure towards getting people to come to terms with, or at least express and saying, hey, and by the way, we're going to have media there, which is going to now be part of your storytelling, kind of ups it up too.
Yeah. And one of the things we did too is when we put those CEOs on stage, we put them on stage with their leaders in D&I, whether that was a CDO or that was a manager or director. We put them on stage together and kind of, that kind of elevation was super important to us to say, okay, it's not just the CEO doing this, it's the D&I person, and they are at the same level when they're talking about this and working together. And how are they doing that? Really exploring and investigating that. And then the last thing I would say is that, when you convene voices around diversity, equity, and inclusion, you really need to think about that representation. And we have spent many, 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 many long hours making sure that we have representative voices across race, ethnicity, gender, disability, sexual orientation, veterans, people who've been incarcerated, really looking at a really wide age as well, religion, really looking at a wide range of diversity and making sure that we have diverse voices talking about them.
It's funny you say that. I actually went to a diversity conference and there was like zero diversity. And I was like,
yeah, I know, right?
It's have to like take a look around. And I wrote to their organizer and just said, I think this is something you should be really conscientious of, like as the only person of color at this pretty large conference and one of maybe 10 women, right? And the list goes on, like, you got to be careful, right? You can't try and convene people and say like, hey, you should be doing these things differently. But as the convener, I am also perpetuating the same kinds of challenges. Like that doesn't make any sense either.
Yeah. And also what happened to all the folks that are speaking at that conference and didn't realize that, like, are you doing, like, you need to be responsible if you're saying yes to speaking at an event, especially on diversity, that it is diverse. Folks otherwise step down and allow somebody else to step up and do that.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. So we have one other question, because I know that there's people who are in particular kind of interested about what the next step is, right? So you've done all this work in the industry. We always are reading about the challenges and opportunities that exist in the tech world in this space. So there's still plenty, of opportunities. What are some of the things that are rising to the top that you all are focusing on?
Yeah. We are going to launch a new solution in January, so stay tuned for that. We have been really focused on allyship and building empathy, and over the last couple of years, and really working with executives and leadership teams. And then with some companies, we're doing that training across the organization as well. Because I realized at a certain point, and we as a team realized at a certain point that what we're doing is not enough. And this industry is focused on unconscious bias training, and most industries have focused on unconscious bias training as kind of the answer, and it's not the answer. It hasn't done what people hoped and expected it to do, and what we need is action, and we need individual actions over time. And I think right now there's a lot of people that really want to take action; they just don't know how. And so we've been working to give them that how. And that looks different from the Leading with Empathy and Allyship podcast, which we do weekly, to I'm writing a book on allyship that'll be coming out next year, and doing a lot of executive and leadership training around empathy and allyship, and kind of building and growing that across organizations. How do leaders do that effectively? Yeah. And then a new solution coming up soon.
I know everybody's going to want to know about this new solution, which is so exciting. So Melinda, like if people want to stay tuned and they want to be able to see this, what's going to be amazing that you release out into the world as a solution, where do they go? What's the best way to stay connected to you?
Yeah, I think just Change Catalyst changecatalyst.co. And you can learn about all the things that we're doing. You can sign up for a newsletter. You can sign up to RSVP for a live event. We go record our podcast live, so you can come live or you can catch it afterwards. You can also see a number of different solutions that we have there. Changecatalyst.co. Yeah.
Fantastic. Well, that is so awesome. It was so fun to be able to spend some time with you here. So I just want to say thank you for all that you're doing, all that you're continuing to do, whatever this amazing solution is that's going to solve so many things. Thank you in advance for that. We're excited to see what it is. And I also want to say thank you to all of our listeners for joining us today. We really appreciate you being here with us on Uplifting Impact. We know that when we come together, that's where those solutions are born. When we think about what we can do with our power, when we think about what we can do in our industry, when we think about what we can do as individuals and taking care of ourselves, but then also thinking about how we push that out into our companies or the places or people that we care, that's the kind of thing that changes the world. And so we're so excited that you're here with us, that we're able to be part of your journey and your learning process. Please share the podcast with your friends and your family and your coworkers, right? Because the more people that we have engaged in this work, the more effective we can be together. So glad to have you here. Hope to see you or hear you, listen to you, connect with you, whatever it is, on the next podcast. And we'll be looking forward to it. Thanks again, Melinda.
All right. Thanks.
Bye.